Hey, so this is the Drupal Usability meeting for November 29th, 2016. And we have a few topics to talk about. And we discussed to start with the media key module review. And the context with that issue is the media team proposed a high-level plan to use media support in core that's more flexible as what we have for files and images right now, and is more user-friendly. And that requires some underlying changes because files and images, the way we implement it now, they are not extensible towards external media or being able to integrate with other features. So add a media entity module in core, which already works in Contrib, which is more like a base technology module and would allow us to support different features. And I set up a site that I'm gonna share now. So they just open an issue to add this module in core, and the issue is just gonna look up the issue number. And the issue is 2831279. Bring media entity module. And they hope to get this done very fast, and then we'll see how that works. So let me try and share my screen here. It would be this one, I think. So here I have a Drupal 8 site where I installed, or where I pulled several media modules. I pulled the media entity module, which the issue proposes to add to core. And that module currently depends on the entity module, which is not going to happen in core, of course. So it uses some base functionality from entity, which either is going to be committed to core itself, which is a separate issue, 669.802, or it's going to just implement the feature that it uses from entity module in the media entity module directly. So this dependency will not happen, but we'll need that for, we are using the contributed modules as they are right now in Contrib. You can reproduce this without applying any patches. So once you enable the media module, it for some reason explains itself as media entity API, although it has a lot of UI elements. API. What this provides you is basically a help page and permissions. So if you go to permissions, you can see that this likely provides a media overview page that was not linked. You administer media bundles, which is a word that is not exposed on the UI in core otherwise for other things. So this media types are called media bundles. And then you have a permission to create media, delete any media, delete media, update any media, update media, and view media. And there's no explanation on what's the difference between delete any and delete, or update any and update. There may be ownership involved or something that's not explained. So that's the permissions. And then if you go to the help page, then it just explains that this is a base entity for media, a very basic entity that can reference all kinds of media objects. It provides a relation between your website and the media resource. And you can use any reference this entity within any other entity on your site, of course. And then the online documentation currently leads to drupal-media.gitbooks.io, which will not fly for core, obviously. So that's both documentation links go there. And this finally gives us a list of pages that are key to the media entity module. So it's actually not just an API. So the media page is listing of media. So this is basically under content, goes alongside the files tab currently as is with the module. And there's no media out of the gate. It says no content available. Try to add media, it says there is no media bundle yet, and add a new media bundle. So that's the default behavior of the media listing currently in the media entity module. So this is where possibly the media browser will be that we reviewed earlier. This is one of the places for the media browser earlier. And then the add new media, we've seen it didn't work. And the media bundles is where you can actually configure what's going to happen. And this is very similar to content types. So you add a media bundle, like you want to manage photos, you say photo bundle description, whatever. And there's type provider, which I did not enable any of the type provider modules, so I can only create generic media, whatever that means, explained. And then the type provider configuration does not exist for generic media. And there's a feature called field mapping, where media type plugins can provide metadata fields such as title, caption, size information, credits, and automatically save this metadata information to entity fields, which can be configured below. So basically, based on the type, this can feed data into fields that I configure. But there's no metadata fields by default. So if I save this, then I sort of maybe have a photo type. So if I try to create a photo now, then I don't have a photo type because there's no way to upload my photo. So I can save this, but I cannot actually upload a photo. It's going to display this thumbnail for my photo that I cannot upload. So let's say I want to actually add a photo to this. So I go back to my media bundles, photo, and this obviously now have fields that like every other content type. So I manage those fields and I add my photo field. Boom, image field, photo, yay. And now this is the regular field form, so nothing to see here that's special to media entities. It's a lot of stuff. We know the problem with the field UI. So now I have an image field on my photo, so maybe I can add a photo. Back to media, and this is my photo, and now I have an image field on it. So yeah, it's there, and then I can pick my was. Just a photo of me, nice. Just cover his face. So it's sort of saved my photo, but I don't have a thumbnail. If I go on the photo, I don't have a thumbnail either. So this is not actually how you do a photo, turns out. So because media bundles are supposed to actually integrate with a type provider that support the media type that you want to deal with. So that's why there's the media entity image module that actually lets you use images, local images, as media, which is currently not proposed to be added to core in that issue. But without that, there's not much use in the media entity module itself. So let's do media entity image. And that will complicate our bundle configuration a bit. So then I go back to media bundles and edit my photo bundle. And now I can say I want to use the image type provider for my thing. And now it connects with the photo field that I already have. So it says that field with source information is my photo field that I already have. If I just created this fresh and I don't have the photo field yet, I can leave this empty. I can create the bundle without selecting a value for this dropdown initially. And this dropdown can
Are
be
you freaking
populated
kidding
after
me?
And
Oh my God.
then you can gather EXIF data if you want, by default, and it explains what EXIF data is with the name of a PHP function.
You're trolling us, Gabor.
So
Go ahead.
And then field mapping now contains useful things. So there's a file mime and whatever mime is, and then width and height. But there is no field for width and height by default, right? Because I just added a photo field, and the rest of the fields are just ones built in with the media entity. So so I cannot really map that to anything. But if I create like an integer field or something, then the width and the height could be populated there. So now I save my media bundle, so I have a photo with the photo thing, and I can go back to my media. So now I have this photo to the provider. That's the same UI. The UI did not change at all because I did not add any new field, and it's still the same thumbnail with something else. Add new media. It's a different thumbnail of a different photo.
Yay!
So because I connected the plugin because I connected the media entity to this image type, now it can create thumbnails for me. And then when I go to listing of media, they will actually show my face. Somehow the old thing did not work when I edited and updated it. For some reason, I don't know really how it should be anyway. So an edge case. So, and then the other feature that we did not see is, so it can collect this EXIF data, but it does not explain what it is. Yes, collect EXIF data, and nothing happens. And then you say save media bundle. And then you go edit your content, and nothing changes there either. So no additional information here. Save and keep published. And now theoretically, this collected EXIF data, which does not show anywhere, right? Because we don't, I don't know where.
Do we have another photo of your face created?
You have to utter
Created a
incantation to.
No, I already know the answer because I tried. So what happens is you say yes, and you save the form, these form elements. So the fun thing is if you change this, then no. If you change this part, these parts change dynamically. But if you change this, then this part does not change dynamically. In fact, it disappeared here because I changed that. So if it's yes, then there's more field mappings once you reload the page. You can map the camera model, the image creation date time, the ISO setting, the exposure time, whatever, to on the entity if you have fields to store this data.
So you have to create those fields. We can still not select
Yeah,
them.
you have to create those fields. So I think if we want to ship with image support. So I think we said that we want to ship with image and YouTube supporting core. So we would have default bundles for images and YouTube videos.
Yes.
Somehow map some fields. But even then, I think there's definitely a lot to be improved on this UI.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because that only helps the initial user who's just going to use the default config that's shipped with core. It doesn't help the next site builder user who comes along and wants to create a new kind of media entity bundle for something else and has to go and there's no good like default example for them to work from.
Yeah,
it's painful.
And then there's like some gems here, like Q thumbnail downloads, download thumbnails via Q, which is did download thumbnails from for local images. Like I don't know. So there's some small like things like that that either need to disappear for things where they're not applicable or need to be explained. What do they mean?
Can I ask another question?
Sure.
What happens if you have multiple bundles and then choose add media?
Sure. So I did not try YouTube yet, but we should try because that's the other thing proposed for course. So let's do YouTube. And then create a bundle for YouTube videos. Or YouTube video. Rather. No configuration. Ooh. Okay, that's nice.
Ooh.
So that's probably not what it's supposed to do. But anyway, so if it would work, then it shows the same listing of types like for content. So when you do add content, you get this list. The same happens for media. But apparently the YouTube thing, even though I believe it's a release, it's a stable release, it doesn't work. But the other thing that we need to add in core, hopefully.
Maybe another related question. In the end, somebody wants to have a bulk update, for example. Is there here somewhere underwater something that can automatically detect bundle? Say you drag and drop a video and an image and audio file and then
Yeah, I think that would be the task of the browser, the media browser. I think that that Adam Honig and the Lightning team has a sort of a solution for that.
Okay.
Yeah. I haven't seen the solution, but I've heard him explain that he has the solution. Another thing that I find strange is the media browser. This listing currently names the bundles providers. Because photo is a bundle I created that uses the image type provider. And it says it's a provider, but it's a bundle.
Yeah, and why does it? And then nobody's going to even understand what the heck that means.
Nope. Even bundle is a bit tricky, but if you say type, then people this is a photo. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why it's not a type, but it's for some reason it's a bundle, not a type. I don't know. So that's about. I think that's about it. The extent of the pounds.
Yes. So yeah, this needs work. But how do we unravel this, because there's a lot going on in different places. I mean, obviously this. Sorry, what did you install? Did you install a bit of contrib and a patch, or because
No, I only took 3 contribs, or 4 contribs: media entity, image, media entity, YouTube, and entity.
okay,
And
because
core proposal is to add media entity module into core, but not yet the other 2. And I just verified in the meantime that I should have installed media entity embeddable video.
YouTube enabler.
Is why I provided the PDF.
I don't think that adding media entity into core without those other 2 modules makes any sense whatsoever.
I agree.
Yeah. You could make an argument that with those other 2,
You're breaking up.
I'm breaking up.
Yep.
You hear me now?
Yep.
You could argue that the modal browser is another thing, that it's usable with these 3 modules, obviously with the changes that we're talking about.
I mean, for breaking up the work, I guess it makes sense to just add media entity for now. Maybe it's more specific and correct to say it's not useful to release 8.3 with only a media entity.
Yeah.
Because as I see it now, you'd still have to install some contrib to do things, to add, to create media.
Yeah, the media entity itself is not really useful to type providers like image and embeddable video and stuff like that.
Right, right, because that's the first thing you did, right? Create just an image, but that was not a media.
Right, yeah.
Okay, so you need entity image.
The only way that it would be usable with just adding media entity into core would be if you added media entity into core and then you just hard-coded the configuration of an image and a video.
Mm-hmm.
The entity image and entity YouTube allow users to create their own bundles. In other words, if you just hard-coded the bundles,
yeah, but we want so what we want is exactly so the reason we add media entity is so to have an extensible base that extend with Facebook and Twitter and whatever they want. So if we hard code things, then it's not really configurable or extensible in the way that we want.
Yeah.
And can we just skip YouTube and say for 8.3 we want only image? Because that's already a very big part, very interesting for a lot of people.
Right, so so we need image at least to reproduce the core functionality that already exists. Yeah. And I think we need some kind of generic file thing because the core also has some kind of generic file thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, where it's maybe a PDF or whatever.
Yeah, and I'm okay with splitting, say, 2 modules, and only in the base profile or standard profile you enable both. And if somebody wants something else, you can just enable media and replace image with something else.
Well, it is nice to have both of, first of all, videos are a very common use case. And second of all, it gives people the ability to look at 2 different things and see how they were configured differently and say, oh, I could do this or I could do that. But we definitely, but they should, if they're installed, if they are there, I don't think that I think that they should be they should all install at the same time. However that works, whether it's making it like media. To me, it would be the thing that you would want to do is you would want to make a media UI module, right? And then when people click media UI module, it would automatically enable all of these other ones.
Yeah, that sounds logic. It should somehow be possible, I think, to just enable some of them, but maybe only the media. But
I'm just wondering, I mean, what we're discussing now is like, it's a bit like product, right? It's
Yeah.
a product strategy for what scope to release, etc. Or no, I mean, we can we can give our opinions on that, but and those should weigh in. I'm just wondering, from just the actual interaction design and user experience we just witnessed,
yeah, then I have
how much comes from media entity itself, bare bones, and do we have UI there already that we should work on, and how much is added by respective types, bundles, providers?
Well,
Yeah,
what I already saw from the generic one is a lot. And what was the most funny for me was the metadata mapping. I think that's hard to explain.
Yep.
That's why I started with the generic demo, so you can see like what's common between every media type, regardless of media type.
Yeah.
And the media type just add on some more things.
That's the easiest. Technically, that's the easiest problem to solve, right? We just create a config directory with some YAML files in it for the there by default for those things, for those bundles. But you know, the deeper problem is how do you fix the usability of somebody making a new bundle from scratch?
Yeah.
Yeah, from what I've just seen, I would probably start just mapping the workflows I just saw, the sequence of screens I just saw, and then probably reorder and move bits of interface that are on the separate screens, and combine other stuff on other screens, etc. But I would start mapping out that workflow and see where it is cumbersome, where it could be improved, where things need to split out into multiple screens or could be combined, etc. I mean, that would be the more practical hands-on UX work on this, right?
Yeah. I kind of feel like this, that we almost don't, we kind of don't want to really want to put our effort, right? The place where we should put effort here, right, is making it easy for people to extend this by adding bundles. Download and install. Because what do I want to do if I have this? I don't want to go through and configure YouTube. I don't want to have to go through and configure Vimeo myself. I don't want to have to go through and configure. We want to make a nice, easy, it's almost like a developer experience problem. We want to make it easy for people to create the bundles and publish them as modules, whatever, and then direct people to go and download the bundle for Vimeo, or go and download the bundle for Twitter, or for that or the other thing, so that people don't recreate these things over and over again. It's spend time trying to. Go ahead, Janusz.
Yeah, sorry. Sorry for being late. I didn't notice Ka was pinging me.
Thanks.
So the reason why we didn't ship bundles by default in Contrib was because the fact that we expected these feature modules to appear. If we put this into core, this changes, because then the core is basically the feature module, and then this is exactly the case what you're telling. That then every module that also provides a plugin probably should ship the bundle with it, which is not the case at the moment. But I think that this changes when this becomes part of the core.
Right. So that makes sense. So core could still provide like generic image and generic video, right? And then allow somebody else to make the module for YouTube. That's, I think, where the dividing line belongs, right? There should be a dividing line between, there's a generic image and then there's, Flickr image. There's a generic video and there's YouTube video. Those are the. Does that make sense?
So just trying to summarize, with media entity in core, it becomes possible or easier to provide more full-featured media providers that provide that.
You're
Is that
dropping
correct?
out.
We lost. You're breaking up, right?
Okay, trying again. So with media entity in core instead of contrib, with media entity in core, it becomes possible to provide more full-featured media provider modules that define their own bundle. So I'm just trying to rephrase what Jana said, that by moving it to core, we open up the possibility to install full-featured packages for additional bundles. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
And from what you said, Kevin, about generic, it might be that this generic plugin that ships by default with media entity is a bit confusing, because the intention is not for this plugin to cover, let's say, like generic images. That's another plugin that is currently not part of media entity. It's part of another module which just provides this plugin. And I think that we should move that plugin together with media entity into core as well. And then you actually have a plugin that provides support for images. And it might be when we have useful plugins in core that this generic wouldn't be necessary anymore. I'm not sure. But right now it's part of media entity, so it's part of the proposed patch. But this is to be discussed.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think it does make sense to include the default generic image, at least a default generic image bundle, if not also a generic video one. I don't know whether that even exists, but
So my impression was that we would at least want to have support for images and documents, aka PDF, doc, ODT, something like that, which kind of corresponds to file field right now. And then also something like YouTube, probably YouTube or maybe some other provider. I'm not sure. This is also to be discussed. And all those things already exist. We just need to take them.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So then the usability problem at that point becomes discovery, which we already have this problem with modules in general, but we need to make clear in the media, in the sort of media group of modules or whatever, and the UIs for them, how a user could add or could go and add another bundle if they wanted to by going and downloading it and installing it. There needs to be some kind of help or something in the place where you create bundles that says, yes, you can create a bundle from scratch, but there are probably a lot of these bundles there are already a lot of these bundles available, for you to install on your site, and you can find them here, with a link or
Yeah,
something like that.
I guess we should probably maintain like a list of modules that do that in the official documentation. Or is there any better way to do that?
Ideally, we
Yeah,
could link
that
to
would-
something like that from the UI, right?
Yeah.
I think that would be a good idea.
I think we do it for themes, right? For example, in the appearance page, we link to find more themes here.
Well, that's right.
Yes, can we link to a pre-filtered project listing page?
For example.
Yeah, yep, that's a good idea.
So, what did we see? I started with saying like we can restructure what we saw and improve it. Kevin rightly pointed out that, well, we can do that, but we basically, if we do that, that means like reducing the complexity, right? Moving stuff out of sight, basically. So simplifying the basis so that we can optimize for, well, presets and adding more presets. Is that correct?
Right. I think so. But I mean, so the other advantage of having a default one that's in core, like a default generic that's in core, is that we want to paint the picture for the people who are creating these bundles that when you create the bundle, there's a certain like level of work that you're going to need to do, right? So what we don't want is we don't want people to create the bundles and then not have the config in the bundle that gives you the default EXIF mappings, right? That's not usable, right? We need to have the default EXIF mappings already there, them, but they should be already there when the person downloads the thing and puts it into their site.
I agree.
So it's
I'm
like,
interested how that would work out with all the default fields that needed to be shipped.
well, I mean, you're talking about like database conflicts and things like that.
Yeah, maybe naming conflicts of field names.
There may need to be, some kind of fix added to the fields that identifies them as fields that are being generated by the
Remember, we're on the usability meeting, right?
Well, the point is, I mean, from a
I mean,
user
it does have
perspective,
implications, yes.
From a user perspective, when I download it, I want to be able to stick my new media bundle in there and just have it work, right?
Yep, and
Yep.
never dive into edit.
Yeah, not have to like know anything about EXIF or anything about creating new fields or the fact that it conflicted with other fields. So if they are namespaced, all the config that's created is namespaced to the field, to the media, and then preferably even to media and the particular bundle, right? Then we don't have to worry about that kind of any kind of conflicts there, and the user can just put the thing in, and boom, they're laughing.
So, well, once again, where should we start if we want to provide the media team with actionable UX input? Are we ready to do that? Maybe we are not, but
I think it's going to require a little bit more. I mean, this is the first time I've had an opportunity to really take a look at this. Mm-hmm. And I don't know whether about anybody else on the call whether they've gone through it in detail or not either. But I think it's going to take. I think we should look a little bit more before we knee jerk some feedback.
I agree, and that's basically why I started with. I would plot all the screens I just saw, see how they relate, and look for simplifications, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Jannes, before we move on to another topic, do you have any final thoughts? As in, please help here, please don't touch this, or
Please help here. No, definitely, because like we never got any real UX inputs into that, so that would be extremely valuable.
Okay, and then again, we should probably start at the basics that the media entity itself provides, right?
Yes, I'm sorry that I missed the first part of the meeting, but I will go through the recording tomorrow, and I guess I will hear more thoughts that were raised during that,
Yes.
and I will be able to provide more feedback on that.
All
I don't
right.
want to
Okay.
to like block this because of I was late.
No, that's okay. We laugh in some places. It's nothing personal. Okay, maybe you've seen it, and we'll get some feedback in the media meeting tomorrow. I'll try to make that one, and we'll see.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for joining.
There's definitely some low-hanging fruit things like the nomenclature stuff that can be.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. As I said, I'll watch it, and I'll be happy to work on stuff that you identified.
Okay. Thanks, Janis.
Cool. Thank you.
Yeah, in the meantime, I downloaded the embeddable video and clicked through creating a YouTube video. So if somebody wants to look at the recording later, they have some reference of what kind of fields are provided. I haven't found any way to actually embed the video, but I can create a video that has a thumbnail.
Ah, okay.
So that at least worked, and it didn't actually embed anything, but yeah. This definitely needs work as well.
Okay. Well, media is a nice one for a UX sprint.
There is one other question that we could discuss briefly without the need of having Janos here, and that is the question of Files tab. We have the Files tab in Core right now. If we introduce the Media tab, we need to have the files. Can we remove it?
Yes. I mean, they eventually they should probably merge, right?
Yeah, because it's just going to confuse people otherwise, right? They're going to be like, what's files and what's media, and why would I, where do I go to see the thing that I want to see?
Yep.
I would even consider that blocking from a usability perspective.
Yes. Yeah.
So yeah, that's something to look into, the complexities of that. But yes, that's that should not be two things.
Mm-hmm. We don't have to get rid of the files page or view that's there. We can just remove the menu item, because people may want to use that for some purposes. But what's our next agenda thing?
9 December.
Oh, right. Oh, awesome.
So if we have a virtual usability UX sprint on Friday, December 9th, I would like to hear some ideas of how to organize that, what to focus on. Well, yeah, and how to structure that day. I mean, we have to, not that we have to schedule things too tightly, but we should promote it. And well, one thing that was fun to see last week is that we got 2 or 3 people joining the Slack channel and say, hey, want to help with UX? Where to start? It's the $1 million question. So one idea I had would be to put together some introduction workshop, slideshow, whatever, to just get newbies oriented on what lives where. That's something I would like to work on, and I could use some help there. But on the other hand, we can also look into just the initiatives and tag some issues with stuff to dive in. So, anybody have ideas, suggestions for?
It would be awesome to have, and I know that we already do indeed have people who are working on UX who are also front-end developers. I think it would be good to be able to pair people who are not developers or who are just usability specialists or designers with people who are developing things and work on issues that could actually be committable at the end of the sprint. Mm-hmm. So that, it's not, we've had a lot of, this is not saying that there shouldn't be, some tasks that we do in the course of the sprint that are just test this thing or write personas or create,
Mm-hmm.
or create flows or things like that. But the more things that we can actually commit, the more, momentum we get.
Nice.
What about doing some tests online, for example? I don't know.
Great idea.
Maybe just people could post some, I don't know, maybe wireframes, or maybe they modules, and there could be people just checking them and recording it and giving their feedback. Don't know exactly how, but
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some platforms for that we could possibly potentially use.
Okay. Let's see.
Do we want to create like a list of issues, Roy, that sort of that people think might be? Because if we do, then I was thinking that if we do kind of create a list of issues, here's a bunch of issues that would be good to work on. I think defining what are we looking for when we add issues to this list? We're looking for something that's reasonably doable within the course of the sprint, not that we're only doing one task on it, and maybe possibly committable.
Well, we have the sprint tag, right? We tag stuff with usability as the catch-all, and then we add the sprint tag for stuff that's the current focus.
Okay.
And we can, that search is a list of issues.
Mm-hmm. But some of those, what I'm saying is even with the sprint tag filter on things, mm-hmm. Some of them that have the sprint tag on them are epics.
True.
And they're not really, they're things that we wouldn't be able to finish them to a sprint.
That's true. So we make up another one. Yeah. Let's see. Yeah. So I do like the idea of pairing designers with devs to work on actionable tasks, and we have to create a specific list of issues for that. That's true. Let's see. Do we need to provide an intro on the actual initiatives that people are working on?
Yeah, maybe. Just to sort of like a quick high level, mm-hmm. So that people who are participating can understand the bigger context.
So practically, how would that work? Like, do we have to try to cover multiple time zones and then have like a short intro meeting at the start of some of those time zones, or?
Yeah, that's a good point because it's staggering. Across.
Yeah, so let's say I put together something like an onboarding presentation or onboarding workshop or whatever. I could do it multiple times that day. We could, of course, record it so that it can be looked up later. But yes, we need to pass the baton across the day. Yeah. I mean, we probably need only a few like specific times or markers in the day so that where people can rally around and we do a group exercise or a group thing. And then, and in the meantime, people find their way and we help them out as needed. I mean, we shouldn't build a full schedule, right, for the day. We should have a couple of times where we regroup and go through some more structured elements.
Right. Like not like 9 a.m. Central European time, 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, and then 9 a.m. Pacific time or something like that.
Yeah.
So that there's those are the three kind of days that are starting. There may be people joining from time zones in between Pacific time and European.
Yeah, 9 a.m. is a gamble already, right?
All right,
Just okay. So, who wants to help? Just plot and plan and communicate this a bit.
I can definitely help communicate.
Yeah,
for sure.
Definitely a good communicator. I can help. Yeah, and Gabor, you have the best network for disseminating things, I think. I can help. Putting together, like what you said, Roy, the sort of the materials that we talk about. We can divide and conquer on that.
Yes, of course.
See parts of it.
Okay. In the interest of time, any final thoughts?
None for me. Sure.
All right. Then we meet each other next time.
Okay.
Thanks for attending all. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.